Why is it that stories about struggle attract us so much? Stories about going against the tide of fate, fighting against destiny itself, and resisting the very nature of the world the characters inhabit are so very intriguing. The trials and tribulations the protagonists go through to merely survive resonates with us deeply. These are my favorite kinds of fiction. There is one story which I don't often hear discussed that banks on these themes expertly. Mouse Guard, a 2006 fantasy comic book by writer and artist David Peterson. At first glance, there's something pretty striking about the cover pages of these books. Instead of the standard American 6.5 by 10 inch format, Peterson opts for a square 8 by 8. The artwork in these comics also stands out, almost seeming textile or material. I hate this cliche, but it does seem to kind of jump off the page. The story itself is really pretty simple. In a medieval world paralleling our own, a sapient society of mice struggle to survive through harsh conditions, savage predators, and even strife from within. The society is known as Mouse Guard, and its members act as noble warriors who are compelled to use their wits and martial prowess to protect their fellow mice. Even from the first chapter, Peterson makes it obvious this isn't a fairy tale. This is a truly dark fantasy. From the eyes of such a tiny prey animal, this world is brutal and unforgiving. You quickly begin to understand why the characters feel so strongly about their roles as mice of the guard. They don't want to simply struggle against the adversity they face. They don't want to just survive. They want to live, to protect one another, and build a better world for the future. We see them fight, of course, but we see the more menial side of their lives as well. We see the mice of the guard smith, weave, sew, farm, fish, drink, and feast. It's really quite compelling, and serves as a fantastic way to provide some world building. Peterson uses mice as the catalyst through which the story is told, not because they're cute and furry, though that probably helps, but because mice are some of the ultimate strugglers of the animal kingdom. They're small, they're not strong, and they live in a hole in the wall. They're not hunters, they scavenge for their food, and they'll eat just about anything they can get. And maybe their most captivating characteristic, they're damn clever. Of course, the mice in the world of Mouse Guard are about as smart as humans, so they're more than a little clever, but that just makes it that much more inviting to root for them. That's basically the summary of what the story holds within. Mice fight to survive, to live. They face adversity and battle the harsh forces of the natural world. Predators, changing seasons, starvation, and sickness. But still they overcome. They also face opposition within their own ranks. The first series is about such an event. But still the story remains pretty simple. There are mysteries to be solved and cloaked figures to be unmasked, but for the most part, Peterson just focuses on a core cast of characters and a linear journey through this world. I love a great complicated plot as much as the next guy, but it's also nice to just see a straightforward story of man, or mouse, versus nature unfold. Now let's talk about the art. Peterson's style in this comic has a grittiness and a roughness that's hard to describe, but the charm becomes obvious once you see it. Peterson also has a background in printmaking, which he himself attributes his inking style to. The art makes the world of the Mouse Guard feel much more real and grounded. There's some very evident cross-hatching that really gives the illustrations some texture. On a side note, whenever the guard mice come across predators in the wild and do battle, Peterson does a great job of making them look so wild and savage. It's hard to describe it in a precise way, but I think you see what I mean. The core story of the Mouse Guard is actually pretty short, just 2 story arcs, fall and winter of 1152. However, the story itself suggests a rich history within the world, involving legends, myths, and so on. A lot of these are explored in the prequel book, The Black Axe, and the spin-off series, Legends of the Guard. The main story is meant to be continued in subsequent volumes after the spring 1153 Free Comic Book Day issue, but so far it seems that Peterson hasn't made much progress on the book. Fans have had to satiate themselves with the spin-offs and a somewhat obscure tabletop role-playing game, which I've actually heard is pretty good. There's even a cute little alphabet book. A movie was supposed to be developed at some point, but it got scrapped as well. The test footage they released had a lot of potential, and I think with a little more time they could have really made something out of it. It's sad to see original ideas like this get shot down when they're so close to hitting a more mainstream audience.
Overall, I think the Mouse Guard books do a lot right. They're an adventure, a journey, and a struggle against overwhelming odds. These stories about inherent struggle against a world that has set itself against you resonate with many people in the modern day. Stories like Berserk come to mind, in which the protagonist has to fight against destiny itself in order to reach his goals. In a book like Mouse Guard, that goal is broken down to its most base form. Characters have to fight to even survive. I love these kinds of settings because while there might appear an individual antagonist here and there, the world is the antagonist. Nature and pure instinct are the villains here. And so when the protagonists use their wits and camaraderie to outdo their foes, you can't help but feel a catharsis. Brutality of nature is beaten back by compassion, civilization, and brotherhood.